Hello and welcome to another episode of our podcast FX Refreshed, where we get together with supply chain professionals to talk all things supply chain. This week we're with Humberto Caballero from XP Logistics, who are a customs broker based down in El Paso, uniquely positioned to support both the importer and the exporter on either side of the US-Mexican border. We hope you enjoy. Let's dive in. All right, should we just dive straight in?
Yeah,
Let's do it.
it's your lead.
It's my lead, but it's your show. That's the way that I think I should phrase that. So, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We've only actually had one other customs broker on the podcast. We've mostly had some logistics companies and a couple of other supply chain professionals. So, but what was really super interesting, I think, about you and what you folks are up to is the fact that you're operating on both sides of the US-Mexican border, and
Yes,
that's
that
kind
is
of
correct.
and that's kind of like interesting and very unique. And we'll definitely we'll come on to that. But before we get too much into the weeds, why don't we start with a little bit about who you are? Like, who are you? Why are you here? What are you doing? How did you get involved in customs broking? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Humberto.
Okay. Yeah, well, I got involved in customs brokers since I was a kid. This is a family business. It was started in the 1990s by my father. He's a Mexican broker. So then I went to school. I did everything I had to do. So I decided to join him in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2004, we started the business in the US. He was on the Mexican side. And then from then, we started evolving into a freight forwarding, warehouse, trading company, and eventually customs brokerage, where we are now today. So
Right.
we focus on warehousing, freight forwarding, customs brokerage in the US and Mexico, and the logistics as a freight broker or intermediary between the carriers and the importers, exporters,
Right.
vendors, everyone in
Okay.
the supply chain.
That's awesome. So interestingly enough, like I wanted to come on to a little bit of about some of the ancillary services that you might be providing outside of customs brokerage, and I'll remember to touch base on that a little bit later on. The big question, I suppose, or the most common question, should I say, that I pose and that I hear a lot as well, is specifically around 2020 and COVID. Like pretty much anyone that I've been speaking to in the logistics world has had a bit of a rotten 12 months. How things have been for you guys? How have you coped and managed to get through the period?
Actually, it has been challenging for everybody. We're not an exception. We're not an exception.
Right.
So we had to adjust of working from home, getting all the systems into being able to working from home. So we were not used to that at all. We would never consider working from home or remotely. So it's something we had to do. We had to upgrade our system, get new equipment for Zoom conferences, better phones. The system we got is it's on the cloud, so now we're able to respond. So it
Right.
was a big challenge for everybody. Our
So,
work, our duty as a customs broker is to be supervising, and it's hard,
yeah.
because it is a lot of people involved, a lot of data entry. You have to print a lot. So
Right.
everybody tell me, why do you print a lot? It's we just need to print. We need to have a lot. We have a lot of documentations on our hands: bill of ladings, shipping orders, certificates of origin, invoices, payments. It's a lot of documentation, and it's hard when you're working from home.
Yeah. Would that then mean that given what you've had to go through and what you've had to implement, it sounds like you're probably now better equipped to deal with this type of situation again, and not just from a pandemic perspective, but also just from a business continuity perspective. If there was anything that ever happened at your premises that you needed to like vacate in an emergency, you're now pretty much having individuals that are set up and can immediately then switch from working in an office to working from a home environment.
Oh yes, yes, we're able to react. So we follow some certifications like the
Yep.
CPAT. So we just had to adjust new protocols for the security of the shipments and everything. When the shipments arrive, we needed to go with the drivers. Have a very contact with them. So we have to
Yeah.
limit that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people were very uncomfortable, so we have to change a lot of things just so everybody would be safer and more comfortable.
Yeah. And how's that? How are we shaping up for 2021? What are we now? July 8th. So we're halfway through, or just over halfway through the year. How are we going?
I think it's looking good in the overall. We receive a lot of calls from everybody. A lot of people call us before they want to get into a new business. So everybody wants to export, everybody wants to import. That's the dream of every entrepreneur, I think. So they call us, hey, so I want to import this into Mexico. I have a cousin that it's in the US, and I make hot dog stands. I have one right now. He's in Mexico. He sells hot dog stands in Michoacan, I think, and he has a cousin that he lives in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
So they call, hey, I can sell your product here. So now we're helping them to make that dream or that business come true, and it is very satisfying to see that sometimes in people.
Well, it's again,
a lot of them go through, a lot of them don't go through, and it just takes time.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things there. To your point about entrepreneurship, it's nice to be, it's nice to see people still in the current environment thinking of ways of trying to make a living and also trying to make other people's lives a little bit better as well. And the fact that you're getting these phone calls, if you will, this like inbound marketing is must be testament to what you folks are doing and the reputation that you have. So to that point, let's get into like a bit more of the weeds of like selecting a customs broker. Like, what's the kind of what type of criteria should a company? So maybe even picking the hot dog stand manufacturer, if you will, in Mexico. Like, what should be going through their mind as they're looking to approach a company like yours?
Okay, first of all, they must find a customs broker they feel comfortable with. They should meet with them in person or via conference. It's always better to have a face-to-face conversation.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, who is liable 100% in the U.S. for U.S. regulations is the importer of record. And sometimes people call and they say, okay, I don't care about anything. I just want to cross the border and get the product. Hey, you have this liability. You have to have a continuous bond, and you're liable for up to 5 years. The entry liquidates after 360 days or so. So there's a lot of things that you have to tell them what to be aware. So I think it is our due diligence as a customs broker to make the importers and exporters aware of what they need to comply.
Right. Okay. And
that's why I think it's better to go and sit with them, have a long conversation about the details, and most importantly, know what can happen after the entry gets paid.
Right.
Once you cross the border, you still have 5 years or even more.
Right. So that's the pseudo statute of limitations. So there's no defense. Obviously, there's no defense for ignorance. So get it right and get it right first time. Right. Otherwise, you could end up falling foul of the law way after the fact. Okay.
And especially now between the laws in Mexico and the US, they are focusing, visibility. They want to know everything.
Yeah.
They want to know everything. Who do you pay for? How do you pay? Which bank? Which account? A lot of money laundering laws are coming into effect right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're taking the government in Mexico. It's it's always there. It's always there looking. They want to know everything. And the U.S. It's pretty similar.
Yeah. Well, I think that I feel the US is always pretty. I'd be very careful how I say this, but suspicious. Not suspicious. That's probably a bit too harsh of a word, but like there's definitely an enhanced level of due diligence, should we say, for any kind of goods, services that might be coming from or even going to Mexico as well. And it's great that you folks are uniquely situated down there on the border, right? And I remember you telling me before that you actually live in Mexico, but you work in the US,
Yes.
which is a kind of a nice have your cake and eat it kind of scenario, I should imagine.
Yes. I cross the border every day. I have no problems. As long as you have your sentry lane, you have no wait. If you have the sentry lane, you have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. So
Yeah.
it's a blessing to have that sentry lane.
Yeah, that is definitely painful. Does it? Do you often then work with both sides of the transaction, or do you typically like maybe work with just an importer or an exporter? Because I mean, again, you're in that unique position that you can encourage that both
Yes.
parties use you.
Yeah, I think about 80% of our work in the US it's both with the Mexican importer,
Yep.
exporter, or the US importer.
Right.
So some of them we only work on the US side, some of them only on the Mexican side, but most of all, we have the complete service for them.
Right. That's brilliant.
So instead of having to call two different customs brokers, two different offices, two different everything, it'll make it easier for you.
Yeah. And also with the from a language perspective as well, right? You're again positioned to be able to make sure that again, what's the best phrase? There's no ambiguity
Yes.
in like being lost in translation. Given that it is hypersensitive and super important that everything is documented correctly, that there could be no or nothing really, lost in translation. That's not going to be something that's considered to be a type of defense for misappropriation or misfiling a set of documents. So
Yes, that's right.
again, a very unique kind of value proposition that you folks have. Is there anything? One of the things that we discussed, you and I, before, or at least we touched upon, were the free trade agreements, and maybe specifically even focusing on the North American uh, free trade agreements. Is there anything important that you think that maybe US businesses should think about in relation to the FTAs? And I'm probably being a little bit like guiding you, maybe also more towards Mexico specifically, as
Yes.
that's an area that we're very keen to get into and build and support. So, anything specific that businesses really should know and understand about the free trade agreements?
Yeah, just know that you have to do your due diligence. You have to study before, get uh, get the advice of a customs broker to make sure your product is able to qualify for the FTA preference, which in this case it's a USMCA, which is pretty good agreement. It's very easy to follow through, but it's important to not to not get lost into details.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you say not getting lost into the details,
Like for instance, when you're talking about a tariff change or what do you do for your product to qualify?
right.
Because maybe you import some parts from China, some from Mexico, some from Vietnam or Taiwan, whatever.
Hmm.
So maybe your product does not qualify, but maybe it does. You know,
Right.
there are
Okay.
there are different rules. You have, I don't know,
Yeah.
several parts from different country of origin parts,
Yeah.
but you have to do a study of why, how it will qualify your product either for original value content or for a tariff change.
Right.
For
So
instance,
you
you can import wood from Peru, but you're not exporting wood; you're exporting chairs.
right.
You have to go into the details if that would qualify as
Right.
they call it a substantial transformation.
And this
So,
is something that you provide value. You provide that level of support, right? So
yes,
you've mentioned there. This is something that the business has to go away and educate themselves on, but it's not so much that they have to try and find that answer across the internet. It's more that they would
yes,
sit down with you and you would peel back the layers of the onion and you would help them understand, the benefits and the value of correctly categorizing, I guess,
yes,
components as well.
yes. And usually, when the big manufacturers or small medium manufacturers in Mexico that go to Mexico to manufacture, they do a lot of research beforehand.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So they're doing a lot of research, but I get the impression that maybe hitting somebody like yourself is going to be a good place to start. I would have thought.
Yes.
All right.
And you know, sometimes the duties that we pay in the U.S. they're very low compared with what you pay in Mexico. Sometimes it's not the duties. I consider them to be low if you compare them to Mexico.
Yeah.
So many times it doesn't make a really big of a difference.
Right.
Wow. Well, with the exception of the tariffs we have from China, from the Section 301 that we all heard in the news for the past 4 years.
Right. Yeah. That seems to be an ongoing
Mhm.
discussion. Keeping people out of prison is probably a not necessarily too harsh of a comment, but certainly keeping people out of prison, stopping companies or helping companies reduce or get away from being fined
Yes.
is kind of critical. Uh, what happens or what could typically happen if somebody or a business does fall foul of the law? I mean, the first thing they're probably going to do is point at the customs broker, and obviously the customs broker is going to put their hands up and say, well, the law is importer of record, is responsible. But what have you seen, or what do you talk to your clients about when it comes to avoiding penalties?
Well, to avoid penalties, you just need to follow the law. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
But when you receive a penalty, usually you should give it to your customs broker or a lawyer, and then try to explain what happened. No? If you were negligent or not negligent, gross negligent, or it was fraud. It depends on the case.
right,
But if
right,
it was an honest mistake and you didn't notice, just you can go with customs and tell them, hey, I was doing this way, but now I found that I was doing incorrectly. This is the right way, and here's I owe you so much duties.
right.
Then the
Okay,
government said, okay, since you did a prior disclosure, everything is good.
right. So in that scenario, that's where the importer or exporter has proactively recognized that the practice wasn't the best practice, and they've
Yes,
approached customs and volunteered that they weren't doing it correctly. So
yes,
that even in that scenario, to your point, I think you were alluding to this, there's still a fine of some sort, but it's just going to be a lower fine versus having customs have found that mistake.
yes. And sometimes even lower, or sometimes you only pay only the duties. The
Yeah,
duties. It depends on how well the grading the mitigation letter is. So
yeah.
how were you able to convince customs that you meant no harm to the U.S. government?
Yeah, I think that's probably an easy one to prove if you proactively go to them. If they come to you after like 4 years of doing the same thing week in, week out, then that's probably a bit more of a challenge, I would have thought.
But if you find out and stay quiet, that's no good.
All right. Well, yeah, that's certainly not anything that we would endorse for sure. What about other ancillary items like supporting and helping businesses like better understand Inco terms? So, like a lot of businesses that we chat to seem to have been stuck in using the same Inco terms for many, many, many years, which, by and large might be working. But more often than not, when we peel back the layers of that onion, we find that they haven't actually revisited the Inco terms. It's just been like, this is the way we've always done it. We've got several things on our to-do list. We're super busy. And then it just gets kind of like pushed to one side. Do you recommend reviewing Inco terms?
Yes. Always review your Inco terms because when nothing happens, everybody's happy.
Right.
So when we have a problem, everybody wants to stay away from it. So just make sure you're using the correct Inco term for the transaction you're dealing with, and study it. Read. Go to the customs broker. Ask which one would he recommend, because we see a lot of Inco terms.
Yeah.
On the customer's invoices, and I know that is not the correct Inco term. For instance, a lot of in the past I used to see a lot of FOB.
Yeah.
And FOB only applies when it's ocean transportation.
Right.
Or you can have FOB in Dallas or in Boston.
Right.
It has to be sea transportation. So FOB is not a truck. It is not a truck mode of transportation.
Right. So when you see that, you don't let that just pass. You proactively approach the
customer. So we tell, hey, you using this FOB, since I'm doing this, and that. So we need to ask some questions. Okay, who pays for the insurance? Who pays for the carriage? Inland freight or sea freight, air freight, or everything. So we help them to come up with the correct Inco term.
Bonded warehouse and FTZs as well, something which you can support businesses with.
Yes.
Talk us through a couple of the benefits of that. Like, what is it? Why is it important? And what are the what?
Yeah, the bonded warehouse in the FTCs allows the importers to get the merchandise into the US without paying any duties and taxes. So you pay the duties and taxes when you withdraw the merchandise for consumption in the US.
Right. Okay.
For instance, we have a customer here in El Paso, and they send their products here to the bonded warehouse. We store it for them, and then they deliver to different customers in Mexico. So, for instance, they receive 20 pallets of their product, and they tell me, okay, these 2 pallets they're going to customer A, these 3 pallets they're going to customer B. So the first 2 pallets they're going to be exported into Mexico, so they don't pay duties while in the U.S.
Right.
And the other 3 pallets they're going to stay into the U.S. So we pay only duties on those 3 pallets that stay in the U.S.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Duty deferment. You pay it when you're going to enter it for consumption.
Right. So that's a bonded warehouse is more around the duty deferment. A foreign trade zone is more around helping businesses pay less duty on the components that they're bringing in, because it allows for those components to be
transformation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's one of the main differences that they have for the free trade zone. You can import, I don't know, parts for a watch. You import the strap, the case, the button. I don't know the watch parts, but several parts. So you pay duties on the watch, not on the individual parts.
And often that can work out to be cheaper. Coming back to actually thinking about it, coming back to the bonded warehouse piece, you said that that's something that you manage. So you have a bonded warehouse on site on your premises,
Yes,
or at
yes,
least somewhere that you have access to, and you manage that.
yes, we manage that. So, and sometimes we have not the bonded warehouse is not for everybody. So you have to
Right.
see case by case if it's convenient for you, from the cost perspective.
Right. Of course, there is a cost for that. So obviously, you don't want to be paying more more
More
in
than
bonded warehouse fees than you would yeah, but it sounds like a good even with the expense, it sounds like it's a potentially a good solution for from a cash flow perspective. If you're
yes,
delaying that payment of duty, if you're deferring that amount of duty, it's not
mhm.
a cost saving per se, but if it means that you don't have to pay it today and you can pay that in several weeks or a couple of months, or is it actually, on that note, is there a time limit? You can't just leave something in a bonded warehouse
Yeah,
in
on the bonded
perpetuity.
warehouse you can leave it up to 5 years,
Up to 5 years. Okay.
and in a free trade zone it can be there forever. But I mean, nobody wants to have inventory for 5 years or for the lifetime.
No sane individual, at least.
Yes.
You shouldn't really probably say that. And so I want to just get back into also a little bit more about the I guess the US Mexico transportation and logistics. And yeah, it's to me it seems that this is definitely an area of expertise for you folks.
Yes.
Like, is there anything that you can think of that would benefit anybody that is watching, that's maybe even based in Mexico, thinking about transporting or importing from here in the US, and vice versa? Anything that we haven't really covered yet, you feel?
What I can explain to you is what makes us unique here in the border,
Mm-hmm.
from many borders in the world, I think, is that like in the US we have the bonded warehouse in the free trade zone, like we just mentioned.
Yeah.
You import, do not pay duties. You pay duties when you enter the product into consumption. You can manufacture in a free trade zone, but in Mexico they have a similar program that is called the IMEX, the Maquiladora program. That program allows you to import all the raw material without duty payments,
Now, is that without
without any duties and taxes.
any duties and taxes due, or are they just being deferred?
Some of them are being deferred.
Yeah.
And like for instance, in Mexico, you have to pay IVA, sales tax, upon the importation into Mexico.
Right.
And if you have the Maquiladora program, you don't have to pay IVA,
Right.
which is 16%.
Okay. And this is unique, right? Because these
This is very unique because you import into Mexico all your raw material.
Yep.
You pay certain duties. I cannot say that you don't pay duties. You have to pay some, but you don't pay IVA, which is a big help for everybody. They import all the raw material for the product, and then they export it back to the US or to the world.
Right. And it's the US business that has to own the premises in Mexico, right? It's the
No, they don't have to own it. It could be either it has to be a Mexican entity, but it
right.
could be owned by a Mexican or by a
Right.
foreigner.
Okay.
So
Either
you
or.
get a permit. You get a permit for that. You manufacture. You transform. You ensemble. You do whatever you need to do, and you export.
Right. So that's kind of, well, to your point, it's unique, it's special.
It's unique, yes.
And I wonder how many North American businesses are actually aware of.
It's a lot, actually. We have a lot of, for instance, here in Ciudad Juarez, they manufacture TVs. They manufacture a lot for the automotive industry. They make washers and dryers. They make what else? They make in Juarez. They assemble some all-terrain vehicles for recreational purposes,
Oh, nice.
medical devices, packaging material. You see everything.
Right. So you feel like many American businesses are taking advantage of
Yes.
that. Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
for instance, and also in Mexico, we have a warehouse in Mexico that we have that capability to provide the manufacturing company. Let's say you have a contract with I don't know, Ford Motor Company in Mexico.
Hmm.
You're gonna provide screws. Okay, so you have to deliver those screws to Ford on a certain date, on a certain time, and certain amount of quantity.
Hmm.
So we can import those products under own maquiladora program. We store them from you, and then you're gonna say, okay, deliver so many quantities to Ford every day or every Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. So it's what they call a VMI, vendor managed inventory. So
And
that way we hold the inventory from the supplier and then we deliver to the end user. This way, the foreign supplier, which could be in the US or anywhere, they don't have to own any facilities in Mexico.
right. And these partial shipments, these portions of in your example, the screws, um, that's again, that's your responsibility. That's a service that you put together. Like you
Yes.
own the employees, the staff that's picking, packing, and transporting.
Yeah. And think of it of like a hot potato. Okay. I receive the hot potato, then I give it to the manufacturing company. We
Yeah.
do all the customs paperwork. So now it's their responsibility to have that hot potato, transform it in whatever they have to do, and export it.
Right.
Okay, but behind this, I told you this in 2 minutes, but it's a lot of procedures, a lot of documentation.
Yeah.
Oh, and to have all those benefits, there it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
A lot of due
Uh,
diligence, a lot of controls, a lot of reports.
like it's one of the more stranger analogies that I've heard. Hot potato. I'm going to see if I can borrow that one
Yeah.
going forward. Okay, so before we wrap up, just want to think if there's anything else that we haven't covered that we feel like we need to get out, like message wise, to the
I don't know,
audience.
just to encourage entrepreneurs to
Yeah,
reach to a customs broker, get to know their customs broker, know the Inco term they're going to use.
yeah,
The Inco term that it's more that 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 adapts more to their transaction.
yeah. And also, I would suggest maybe just taking a temperature check every once in a while, right? Just because they might have been using a competitor of yours for many, many years.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. Yeah, I think it doesn't hurt every now and again just to lift your head above the parapet and
Yes,
just
just do
see.
the due diligence.
Yeah.
Due diligence, check your paperwork, and you know the most common phrase we hear here. We've been doing this for 5 years. Okay, well, you've been
Oh,
lucky for 5 years.
yeah. I can't tell you the amount of conversations I've had that have started with, but that's the way we've always done it. You're like,
Yes.
mm, yeah, it's not the '70s anymore.
Mhm.
Things have changed. Like, you know, prices have changed, ways of doing things have changed, and so like having that wherewithal just to take 5 minutes to reassess the situation. That being said, I do appreciate that many business owners, especially if they are business owners, they're wearing five hats, right? They're the
Uh,
buyer, they're the seller, they're trying to manage cross-border transactions, they're
yeah.
trying to make sure taxes are paid, they're building the widget, they're responsible for maintaining the widget as well. So like there's so much on a to-do list that I can actually see that a lot of what you're trying to solve for and we're trying to solve for just gets pushed to the back of the queue
Yeah.
because there's
And
more pressing things.
another thing that I would like to add is another boom that we've seen. It's e-commerce.
Okay.
E-commerce, it's huge. It's huge. We've all heard of it. We all use it,
Yeah.
especially last year. So, so there's a lot of opportunities there. The U.S. Customs is working diligently to make this easier for everybody. So just
Right.
don't be afraid. Just if you wanna grow your business through e-commerce, there's options, because
Right.
sometimes we don't think about it. It's okay. We have e-commerce. We buy this in, I don't know, in Ukraine, and we receive it. How did we receive it? It
Yeah.
had to go through a customs broker, through a plane, through a sea, through a freight carrier. So it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of moving parts when it comes to getting product from one country to another, and I think we're all guilty of using consumer goods and just not really like giving a blind bit of notice about the where it started out and the journey that it had and how it got into our hands. We just kind of pick it
mm,
up, assume it's going to work, and take it for granted. So but this for me, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I find this
mhm.
the journey of goods and products and services very fascinating. In terms of getting in touch with you, I mean, naturally, anybody that's watching here, they can reach out to me directly, and I can certainly put them in touch with you. But where else can people find you, Humberto?
Yeah, you can share with them my email. I'm always there, and I'll give you my phone number.
But yeah, I mean, you're also on LinkedIn. I've
Yes,
noticed
I'm
as
also on
well. So
LinkedIn. I'm very I'm not I'm always following the platform.
right, okay. So we can get in touch with you through LinkedIn. People can reach out to me, and we'll get them your
Yeah.
details as well. All right, excellent stuff. Well, look, with that, I'm going to sign off by saying it's a bit like looking at the better looking version of myself in a mirror. I'm trying to decipher which side of the screen is you and which is me. But listen, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it,
Okay.
and look forward to catching up with you and working with you in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much.